Alright, White Forest is so back. Because in the most recent selection pack, not only did we get the main deck Lacrima, the Crimson Tears, which, you know, everyone was hyped about, but we also got Fiendsmith's Rextremende. Not quite sure how to pronounce this card, we'll just go with that for now. And if you don't play White Forest, I wouldn't blame you if you thought this card was kind of mid, because honestly, most decks can't really use this card that well. There's very few decks that would actually play this. Now, one of those decks that does play this, however, is White Forest, and you're going to see why in a sec. But with this card, it basically means that any time you have access to your Fiendsmith engine, you have full White Forest combo again. So this is basically an almost complete Beatrice replacement now, and we don't have to run like stuff like Constellar Ptolemy M7 anymore, or like any of that crap. Like in the words of, you know, several pro TCG Yu-Gi-Oh players, if you're still playing M7, you're behind. So yeah, this hand is a perfect example, because this hand has 0 White Forest cards. However, because we have Kashtira Unicorn, it's full combo. Basically, you just need any Light Fiend, any Fiendsmith card, Engraver, or any 2 monsters plus a spell and trap card. And Kashtira Unicorn basically fulfills that requirement by itself, because Kashtira Unicorn adds a spell and trap card and is a special summon. So yeah, without further ado, so this new Fiendsmith line now with White Forest. So we're gonna special summon Kashtira Unicorn, and Unicorn, we're gonna just add Kashtira Birth. And technically we can discard Cross Out too, but we don't need to discard Cross Out. So because Kashtira Unicorn Surge's Birth already, and we can even get this back, as you'll see later. But yeah, now you can just normal summon another random monster, another random hand trap, doesn't matter which one, and you're gonna go into Moon of the Closed Heaven. And now Moon is gonna go into Requiem. And boy, I hope people aren't sick of this, of every deck playing Fiendsmith right now, but I'm sorry, but it's something we're gonna have to deal with for at least another month probably. But yeah, we're gonna summon Lacrima from deck, and Lacrima is gonna send an Engraver. And then Engraver is going to just shuffle back the Moon and special itself. And you know, I'm just pretend this, we don't even have this Cross-Out Designator. We don't need another spell trap card, but we're gonna link Engraver plus Lacrima into Sequence. And now Sequence is gonna make Lacrima by shuffling back Lacrima and Requiem. You're gonna target Engraver, and then add the Engraver back to hand. Then you're gonna discard Engraver, and Engraver will add Tract. Now you're gonna Tract, add Lurie, and then Lurie discard itself. So far, it's very self-explanatory so far, so like nothing interesting has happened yet. This is where it starts to get a little interesting. Okay, so first, Lurie plus Sequence. We're going to link Lurie plus Sequence into Sprint, because we're still playing Sprint, because Sprint is still very important for this combo, because Sprint can dump Astellar. So we're gonna dump Astellar to the grave, and here's where Rex comes in. Okay, so we're gonna, you see the glowing yellow button is Fiendsmith's Track. So we're gonna activate Fiendsmith's Track, and you're probably wondering what the hell we're gonna be fusing something with Track. Well, Rextremende needs 1 Fiendsmith Fusion Monster plus 1 Link Monster. You know, what do you know? We have a Fusion Monster on the field, and Sprint is a Link Monster. So now this is how we get Sprint out of the EMZ. So yeah, very easily, very simply, Sprint can now go away, free up the EMZ, and now we special summon Rextremende. And now Rextremende, we're going to use his effect, and you're going to discard a spell and trap card. So we start with Unicorn, so we can just discard Birth. And now we can use Lacrima's effect. This doesn't really matter, but like this is basically free because we have excess of Light Fiends, so you can just shuffle back Lurie just to burn for 1200 if you want. So yeah, Lacrima, burn for 12, and then Rextremende is going to Rextremende effect is on summon. If this card is Fusion Summon, you can discard a 1 card, send 1 Light Fiend monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard. So it's very important that we discard a spell and trap, and also we're gonna send Requiem to the grave. And now we can trigger Astellar. Astellar triggers where if a spell and trap card are sent to your graveyard to activate a monster effect, while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. So Rextremende does like 5 things for White Forest. You know, it clears up the EMZ, and it also sends a spell and trap card to the graveyard for a monster effect so that you can trigger Astellar's effect to special summon itself. So Astellar just special summons itself right from the get-go, like right there for free. And then afterwards, you're gonna equip Requiem to the Rextremende, and this is really silly. Now you're gonna also equip Sequence to the Rextremende. So now Rextremende also just provided you with 2 free spell and trap cards for send cost for your White Forest. So yeah, that's another thing the Rextremende do. That's like the 3rd thing it's already done for this deck. But now that we just got Requiem and Sequence equipped for free, we can use Astellar and send one of them to the grave to summon Silvy from deck. And here, now you can see we have access to full White Forest combo now. And now Silvy can add Tails. And now we're gonna synchro Silvy, and this is like standard White Forest Astamina stuff from this point on. So Silvy plus Astellar, going to Arciela, then Arciela effect is gonna send the Tails, and we're gonna add Woes to hand. Tails is going to reset itself. And now, going to activate Tails to add Elzette to hand. Next, we're going to use Elzette, pitch the Woes that we just added. And then the Woes is going to, we're going to add Azamina Elzette, and then the Woes is going to set itself. Now activate Elzette effect, special summon Elzette, and then synchro Elzette plus Arciela into Diabell, and here Diabell can add back the Kashtira Birth that we just discarded at the start of our combo, and also Elzette is now going to add us our Azamina, or our Azamina engine, aka Deception of the Symbol Spoils. And we get our Birth back, Birth Control is back. Now activate Deception, and here, Deception, Tribute, Elzette, add Hallowed. Next, activate Hallowed, sending the Deception to summon Murcielago. Then Murcielago is going to add Wanted to hand, and Silvy in grave is going to put back the Arciela, and now Silvy plus Murcielago going to Baron, and Hallowed, put back Azamina Elzette to add itself back. Now we go Hallowed, chain Wanted, and Wanted is going to add our Diabellstar to Black Witch to hand. Then we're going to send Wanted with Hallowed, summon Ilia Sylvia, and now finally we're going to special Diabellstar by sending the sequence that we equipped way back when on the Rextremende. So yeah, we just got free costs from the Rextremende. Thank you very much. And then Diabellstar, set the Symbol Spoils of Slumber, and here can link off the Diabellstar plus the Fiendsmith Rextremende into IP Masquerena. This will trigger a Rextremende effect. Rextremende has another effect, by the way. It's something else it does. So Rextremende can now add back one of our Fiendsmith cards from our graveyard or banishment, and we're going to add back Tract. So Tract can be follow-up for the next turn, but also what's important is that because it's a spell and trap card, this can be used to fulfill the effect of Diabell, Queen of the White Forest. So we always have with Rextremende, it always adds back a spell and trap card. So at any point, if you're missing a spell and trap card for your White Forest lines or for your White Forest sense, you can just link off the Rextremende and then add back a spell and trap. Or, at the very least, you can just guarantee that you have a spell and trap card to trigger your Diabell on your opponent's turn to special summon, to send for your Diabell to special summon, you know, your Silvera from the extra deck. And of course we have the Kashtira Birth all this time, so now we can also Kashtira Birth and revive our Kashtira Unicorn, you know, to extra deck with our opponent too, in case 7+ interruptions was not enough already. We can also do this, and also we can use Wanted and put back the Secret of Symbols, Deception of Symbol Spoils for free, because again we're guaranteed a oh my god, we're guaranteed a send off Diabell, so we don't need to depend on Deception resetting itself for a cost for Diabell, so we can just get a free draw and not care at all. And now this is wow, this is again, mind you, we opened 0 White Forest cards. This was 2 monsters plus a spell and trap card, and the spell and trap card was Birth, so in reality it was just Unicorn plus any monster, and we got IP, Ilia Sylvia, Diabell, Baron, Woes, Symbol Spoils of Slumber. We drew a card. We have Kashtira Birth plus Unicorn. This is like, I'm not even gonna bother counting the amount of interruptions because it's enough. Like at 0, no deck is playing through this on top of 3 non-engine 3 hand traps. So yeah, White Forest baby. It's so back. Who the fuck needs Beatrice anymore? We found the successful Beatrice replacement. So yeah, that's the first combo I wanted to show you. So let's move on to the next one. Alright, next let's do a combo that actually starts with White Forest cards. And this is going to be one of the best combos in the deck. It's going to be Silvy plus any spell and trap. I know we opened Pressure Plant, but we're just going to pretend that this is just a blank spell and trap. And when you already start with the White Forest cards, you don't need to go through Rextremende, because Rextremende is mainly used as a bridge to get to your White Forest cards if you didn't open any. But since we don't have to go through this, we get even more bodies to play with. And obviously Lacrima, the Crimson Tears, also makes this combo a lot stronger. Now I will say, I've seen a lot of White Forest players on ladder, just whenever they have combo, they just fumble the bag and end on like some of the worst boards possible. I don't know how, like, I guess when Beatrice was banned, they all collectively forgot how to like actually play the deck or something. But yeah, don't be a machine that turns your full combo into Baron Pass. Okay, just you're watching this. Hopefully you'll know what to do better. But yeah, normal summon Silvy, and then Silvy will add your Tails, and we're actually gonna just use Tails directly since we already have another spell trap to discard for our Arciela. It's gonna be fine. But yeah, we're gonna add Azamina Elzette, and then special Azamina Elzette, and we're gonna synchro these two into Arciela, and we can use Elzette and then Arciela, and we'll pitch our blank spell and trap card and add ourselves our Elzette of the White Forest and Deception of the Symbol Spoils. So now we'll activate Deception, and Deception tribute Arciela and add Hallowed, and activate Hallowed, send Deception to summon Murcielago, and Murcielago is going to add us our wanted Secret of Symbol Spoils. Since we started with Elzette already, we can already add the Hallowed Azamina back to our hand by putting back the Elzette. And then classic Hallowed Chained Wanted. And add ourselves our Diabellstar, the Black Witch, and send our Wanted for Ilia Sylvia. So we have our Omni Negate up already. And now we'll use Silvy to put back Arciela and special in itself. So this Elzette and the Diabellstar that we searched, we want to keep this in hand right now because we don't have any free spell and trap cards to actually send with these yet. So we're gonna get those soon, TM. But yeah, Silvy plus Murcielago into Moon, into Requiem, and then Requiem tribute itself and get our Lacrima, the Crimson Tears. Hopefully you didn't draw it, but I mean it's fine if you do draw it because you know Requiem can summon from hand. But yeah, summon Lacrima, send Engraver, and next we're gonna equip Requiem to the Lacrima. So now that we can send it for free for Elzette. So Elzette is gonna send the Requiem, and then add our Astellar to hand. And we already normal summon, so we're not going to keep this Astellar in hand. Instead, we're going to send the Astellar to grave immediately using Diabellstar. And then Diabellstar is going to set our Morian. So let's get our Morian. And now Diabellstar plus Lacrima will go into sequence. Then we'll use sequence, and we'll shuffle back our Requiem since we already used this effect, and Moon into Lacrima. Then use Lacrima and add our Engraver back to hand. And next we'll use Engraver to add Tract. And like you can probably see why we discard the Astellar of the Diabellstar already, but yeah, let's just show why. So we're going to link the Lacrima plus the sequence into Sprite Elf, and you can trigger Lacrima if you want. Like either shuffle back the Lacrima or just keep it in the grave. Doesn't really matter. I'll just keep it in grave, and then we'll use Sprite Elf to revive Astellar, and now we'll use Fiendsmith's Tract to add and discard Lurie. And Lurie is gonna special itself. And now we're gonna equip the Fiendsmith sequence to the Lurie, so that we can then use Astellar to send the sequence for our Rusia. And now you're gonna synchro into either Arceala or Silvera. That doesn't really matter. That's just gonna be put back in the extra deck. But using Astellar plus Rusia, and then you're gonna synchro the Arceala plus Elzette into Diabell, and then Diabell is gonna add back our discard spell trap from way back at the start. So we can add back our pressure planet just to show that we can add it back for free. And then going to use Rusia, put back the Arceala. And this is gonna be a little weird, but Rusia's effect is negated, but we are gonna use Rusia's effect to send the Morian, and then it's gonna get negated, so we don't get to draw a card. But the reason we do that is because we send a spell and trap to the graveyard so that we can trigger Astellar. So then Astellar can summon itself back. So yeah, that's the real reason why. And then we can reset the Morian back for free because it's Morian, and we don't get the draw. But I mean, who cares really at this point? Next, we're gonna make IP Masquerena using Astellar plus Lurie. And now, Engraver, we're going to use Engraver's effect to shuffle back Lacrima or Lurie. That does not really matter which one. And now we get to make Baron using Rusia plus Engraver. Sick. And now, if you have an additional spell and trap card in hand to trigger Diabell's effect on your opponent's turn, then you can use Wanted's effect right now to just draw another card as well. If you don't have another spare spell and trap card, that you want to send, that's fine. You can just wait until the end phase and reset Deception, and then you can use Deception for the cost for Diabell. You know, it's fine. But since we have this very useful pressure planet race off right now that we never activated, we can use Wanted to just put back the Deception and draw another card. And yeah, draw Lucian. Nice. So yeah. Anyways, this is the end board. You got everything. You got Baron, Diabell, IP, Ilias Sylvia, Morian, and if you draw one, it was free because we get to add back the spell trap that we added back to our hand that we discarded at the very start of our combo. So yeah, this is Silvy plus 1 spell and trap card. Alright, next combo is going to be Elzette plus any spell and trap, and it gets to basically the same end board as the Silvy plus spell and trap combo, although the sequencing is going to be a bit different. So, you're going to start with Elzette, discard your spell and trap card. So I'm just going to discard Infinite Furnace to show that you don't need like a efficient spell and trap card. You can just discard anything for Elzette. So special Elzette, and then add Silvy, then normal Silvy, and add your Tails, and here you're going to synchro into Arceala before activating Tails, and then Arceala is going to discard Tails, and then add your Azumina Elzette, and then Tails is going to set itself, and we'll use Tails to add our Astellar. So make sure you have both Elzette and Astellar in hand at this point. And next you're gonna special Elzette, and then synchro Arceala plus Elzette into Diabell, and then trigger Diabell and add back the spell and trap card that we just discarded at the beginning. And then Elzette is also going to add our Deception of the Symbol Spoils to hand. And get back our Infirm. Next, use Deception and Deception. It's going to tribute the Astellars to get the Stellar Engrave. And then add Hallowed. Next, activate Hallowed. Send Deception to summon Murcielago. Then Murcielago will add us our Wanted. And going to use Hallowed, put back the Azumina Elzette. And then Hallowed chained Wanted. And get our Diabellstar. And then send the Wanted for Ilias Sylvia to get our Omni-Negate up. And now we can use our Silvy to shuffle back our Arceala. Now we have two bodies on the field besides the Diabell and the Ilias Sylvia, so we can go into Moon, into Fiendsmith. And Moon into Requiem. And hands up if you're sick of watching this. I'm sorry, it has to be done with White Forest. But yeah, Requiem is gonna summon Lacrima, and then Lacrima send Graver, and now we're gonna equip the Requiem to the Lacrima, and we're gonna send the Requiem to summon our Diabellstar, and Diabellstar is gonna set our Morian. Then we're gonna Diabellstar effect set Morian. Okay, there. Just pretend that happened. Yeah, pretend we didn't draw the Morian, but now you're gonna link the Lacrima plus the Diabellstar into Sequence, and next use Sequence, and you're gonna shuffle back the Requiem and the Moon to the other Lacrima, then Lacrima, add the Engraver back to hand, and discard the Engraver to add the Tract. Now, it's very important to, you can add the Tract, but don't use the Tract yet, because our board is actually a bit too full right now. We have a bit too many bodies to play with. So, we're actually gonna link into Sprite Elf first using Lacrima plus Sequence. The Sequence is Link 2, and you can make Elf using Link 2s for some reason. And you can shuffle with Lacrima or not, doesn't really matter. Then we're gonna use Sprite Elf, going to revive our Astellar. And now we're going to use Engraver's effect Engrave first before using Tract, so we're going to shuffle back our Fiendsmith Lacrima. And going to equip the Sequence to our Engraver. Now we can use Astellar to send the Sequence for free to summon out our Rusia. And if you want, we have like random spell and traps in your hand. Like for example, if you hard open Woes, you can draw a card. So you know, why not? Let's draw a card off Woes. Why the fuck not? And then Woes reset it. Okay, cool. We just drew the worst card in our deck. Okay, whatever. Anyways, now we can make Baron using Rusia plus Engraver. And now we can use our Tract to add and discard Lurie. And then Lurie's going to special summon itself. And now Lurie plus Astellar into IP, and here we have the same board as we had before. We had in the Silvy combo. We have Diabell, Baron, IP, Ilias Sylvia, Morian, and we didn't even lose a card because we added the spell and trap card that we discarded at the beginning. So yeah, we have all of this, and we drew a Kashtira Birth, which, you know what, Kashtira Birth's not even useless because it's a spell and trap card that we can use for Diabellstar for the cost of Diabell on our opponent's turn. So because we drew this useless ass Kashtira Birth, now we're free to draw a card off the wanted too. So you can potentially draw up to 2 cards if you have spare spell and trap cards. And yeah, we can draw a card and ah, man, you gotta love the Master Duel shuffler sometimes, right? I mean, yeah, honestly, it doesn't matter what the fuck we have in hand. This board, this is enough to win the game. So yeah, Elzette plus Silvy, those are your bread and butter White Forest combos. Combos that start with White Forest cards. Alright, now let's go over some less optimal or more down bad combos. Not in the sense that they result in a weak board or anything. You know, if they resolve, you're still probably going to win. It's just that these are much more vulnerable to hand traps and interruption. And usually these combos are going to be combos involving like one of or combinations of cards that we usually don't want to draw, which is why they're like less than ideal. For example, we're going to go over Astellar plus any spell and trap card. We're gonna ignore the Silvy and the Engraver hand. We're gonna pretend that our hand is just Astellar plus any spell and trap card. So what do we do is you have to normal summon Astellar and you have to pray. You have to discard your spell and trap card and pray, and then special summon your Silvy from deck. If this resolves, then you're lit, because that means your opponent probably doesn't have Ash, Valor, Imperm, or anything like that. So you're feeling pretty good about yourself at that point if yours resolves to this point. So yeah, now you add Tails, and now you're going to go Silvy plus Astellar into Arciela. Then Arciela effect is going to send the Tails and add our Asmina Elzette, and then the Tails is going to reset itself. And don't trigger Astellar right now. It's a bit early for that. And we're gonna use Tails to add our other Elzette. Now special our Asmina Elzette. And we're gonna make Diabell using Arciela plus Elzette. And then Diabell, add us back our spell and trap card that we discarded at the start. And then Elzette, it's gonna get us our Deception of the Symbol Spoils. And add back that Called by the Grave. Now we're gonna use Deception, and this is gonna start to look a little weird, but we're actually gonna tribute our assuming you don't have any other cards you want to discard in your hand. For example, like if you have like 3 hand traps in your hand and you don't want to like sack them for Deception, you're going to usually sack Diabell for Deception, and then add Hallowed Azumina. Then Hallowed, reveal Murcielago, send Deception, and add your Wanted. And now Hallowed, put back the Azumina Elzette, and Hallowed Wanted, Chain Wanted. And add the Diabellstar, send Wanted for alias Sylvia. Now you're going to use your RCL, your Silvy Engrave, and don't put back RCL, put back the Diabell, because we need to have this on our end, so we have to shuffle this back. And now going to Moon using Silvy plus Murcielago. I heckin' love Fiendsmith. Moon into Requiem effect. Tribute itself to summon Lacrima, and Lacrima send Engraver. Next, you're gonna equip the Requiem to the Lacrima, and special Diabellstar sending the Requiem, and then Diabellstar is gonna set the Morian from deck. Next, we're gonna link our Lacrima and our Diabellstar into Sequence. And Sequence, shuffle back our Requiem and Moon, summon the Fusion Lacrima, add the Engraver to hand, and I can use Engraver to add the Tract, although add Tract, but like the previous Elzette line, don't use the Tract yet. And here we're going to use Elzette, and we're going to send the Morian to grave, special to Elzette, and then add our Rusia. And I'm just gonna trigger our Astellar. Now we can summon back the Astellar because the Morian was sent to the grave, and like we can just reset this Morian as well. Just get this out of the way. We'll reset the Morian, and then the Astellar comes back, and now we're going to link our Astellar and our Sequence into Sprite Elf. And we're going to equip Sequence to the Lacrima. And we're going to special Rusia. And we can use Rusia to send the Sequence to draw a free card. Yeah, then we're going to don't worry about drawing the Fable Luri. It's fine. Don't worry. I know the track is it's not lighting up, but don't worry. We can fix this. But yeah, we're going to use Sprite Elf, and we're going to revive Astellar, and then we're going to synchro into Silvera using Astellar plus Rusia. And then we're going to synchro into Diabell using our Silvera plus Elzette, so we get the Diabell back on board. And then make sure you Rusia, make sure you put back the Silvera so that we can have the Silvera back in the extract to summon off the Diabell. And now we can make our Baron using Lacrima plus Rusia, and you know this is how we're gonna fix this. So we can use Fiendsmith Lacrima to put back the Lacrima, the Crimson Tears, and now we can use our Tract. Our Tract can now add our Lacrima, so that's, and then discard Lurry. So this is what happens if you happen to draw Lurry and you happen to have multiple Engraver in your hand for some reason, and for some reason your Tract is dead. Don't worry, you can, the Fiendsmith engine is flexible enough. You can just shuffle everything back. So summon back the Fable Lurry, and then use Engraver, shuffle back the Lacrima, the Fusion Lacrima, and summon the Engraver, and then make IP using Fable Lurry plus Engraver, and you're Gucci. So yeah, this is still the full end board, and we can draw a card if you want, but we don't have an actual cost, a good cost. So I'm just gonna set this, and then we're gonna go to the end phase, and we're gonna let Deception just reset itself, so that way we can use Deception as the cost for Diabell. So yeah. Now, this end board is obviously like basically the full end board, the same end board as the last two White Forest combos. The only difference is that we have to start the combo with Astellar. So at that point, if the Astellar gets hand trapped, it's really bad because we lost the spell and trap card. We went minus, and then it gets stopped, and then it's like a normal summon reliant and so forth. Like normally, if we're summoning Astellar, it means we don't have anything else. So it is vulnerable to hand traps, but if it resolves, yeah, you better have the hand trap. You know, better have it, because if you don't, then you get all this even with just a Stellar normal summon. So, yeah. Okay, so next combo is gonna be the worst of the Silvy combos. It's gonna be Silvy plus, well, Silvy and no spell and traps. No spell and traps. Ignore that info. That info does not exist. Okay, Silvy plus no spell and trap cards. So this is always going to be a bit worse because we don't have a discard for RCL. We can't even use RCL's effect early on. But here's what you do if you have Silvy and no spell and traps. no spell and traps. Normal summon Silvy, and Silvy add the Tails. And then like pretend we don't have the Elzette either, but we're gonna do Tails, add Azamina Elzette. Then we're gonna special Azamina Elzette. And then Elzette plus Silvy into Arcella, and we can't trigger Arcella effect, so we can only get the search off Azamina Elzette. We cannot trigger Arcella's effect. So add the Deception, and we're gonna use Deception, and we're gonna tribute a monster in hand. So like I know for a fact that you have a monster in hand to tribute because you open no spell and trap. So that means your hand is just full of monsters. So just tribute the worst one, and then add Hallowed Azamina. Then Hallowed Azamina, send the Deception for Murcielago. And then Murcielago is going to add your Wanted. Next, you're going to link these two into Moon. And then you're going to Hallowed Azamina, shuffle either Murcielago or Elzette back, doesn't really matter which one. And then here, you resist the temptation. You cannot use Azamina, Hallowed Azamina chain Wanted right now, because you need a spell and trap card in hand for your combo. And if you do this, you will no longer have a spell and trap card, which means you can't do the rest of your combo. So you're in fact going to have to just raw dog your Fiendsmith engine with no protection. Just go Requiem with no Ilia Soviet protection, and just go Requiem, and then Requiem into Lacrima. Hopefully you didn't draw it too, but yeah, Lacrima is gonna send the Engraver, and here you're gonna use Silvy, and you put back the Arciela for later, and summon the Silvy, and now Silvy plus the Lacrima will go into sequence, And you're going to use Sequence to make Lacrima, shuffling back Moon and Requiem. Honestly, it doesn't really matter which two, as long as you don't shuffle back the Engraver. And then you're going to use Lacrima, add the target, and add Engraver to hand. Next, you're going to use Engraver, add the Tract. Next, you're going to use Tract, add Lurie, and discard Lurie. Lurie's going to special summon itself. And then Lurie plus the Sequence is going to go into Sprint. Sprint is going to send Astellar. And then you're going to use Tract Engrave. You can do this combo again to go into Rextremende using Lacrima plus Sprint, clear out that EMZ. Rextremende, and this is why you need to keep a spell and trap card in the hand, because you need the discard for Rextremende. So we're going to discard Hallowed Azamina, and we're going to use Lacrima. The Lacrima can shuffle back whatever, so we'll shuffle back Lurie for like a 1200 burn. And then, yeah, burn for 12, and then Rextremende is going to send Requiem from your extract to the graveyard, and that's going to trigger Astellar because you send a spell and trap card for the effect of Rextremende. Then Astellar summons back, then you're going to equip both to Rextremende. Again, you're gonna do this nonsense. And now use Astellar, send the Requiem, or Sequence, doesn't really matter which one, and you're gonna summon out a second Silvy from deck. And now Silvy plus Astellar is going to go into the Arceala that we put back earlier. And now that we finally have a spell and trap card to send for Arceala's effect, we can finally use Arceala's effect, sending the Fiendsmith Sequence. And we're going to add Elzette to hand. And now we're going to... This is going to look even more awkward, so we're going to activate Wanted. And we're going to Wanted, add Diabellstar, okay? And now, we're going to Diabellstar, send the Fiendsmith Rextremende. That way we can use the Fiendsmith Rextremende to... Well, first we're going to use Diabellstar to set Morian, and we're going to use Rextremende to add the Fiendsmith Track back to hand, because the Fiendsmith Track is in fact a spell and trap card. So, the things we gotta do to make our White Forest cards live. But yeah, Diabellstar is going to set... Sinless Spoils Slumber Morian, and then we're going to use Elzette, discard the Tract that we just added back off the Rextremende, and then add our Rusia to hand. And now we can synchro into Diabell using Elzette plus Rusia for Arceala, and then Diabell is gonna add back our Hallowed Azamina from grave. And now we can Hallowed Azamina, summon Sylvia, sending the Morian to summon the Sylvia. And now reset the Morian, special the Rusia. We cannot draw off Rusia because the Morian would get banished, so we can't actually send it. Again, this imperm does not exist, so we're going to now link the Rusia plus the Diabellstar into IP, and then finally Rusia put back the Arceala to special itself, and then Engraver finally shuffle back whatever you want. We'll shuffle back the Rextremende, why not? And then special summon back the Engraver, and now Engraver plus Rusia is going to make Baron. So, nice, right? So, Silvy plus no spell and traps still gets you to Baron, IP, Sylvia, and Diabell. Although the sequencing is way different, and obviously we don't have enough bodies to make the Sprite Elf, which is honestly that's fine. IP, this is like so many interruptions already. I will say is that the IP is a little awkward is because we don't have very many extra bodies. So first we're gonna go to the end phase and we have to use Deception to set the set itself, because we're gonna the Deception, because we have no other real spell and trap cards. The Deception is what we're gonna use as cost for the Diabell. So ideally, how you want to play this is you're probably going to want to use Diabell's effect first to send Deception to summon Silvy, and or summon Silvera. Then after you summon Silvera, then you're gonna use IP on the Silvera, so that way you have something to actually link off with the IP that doesn't feel bad. So yeah, there's gonna domain. Errors. Are they gonna summon a monster? Wow, what a man! Monarchs, man. Okay, so yeah, provided they activated any card while they have a face-up monster in the field, you're gonna Diabell, send Deception, summon Silvera, Silvera book their field, IP, link off the Silvera into SP, banish a card, and then you can go to town. Then you have Baron, you have 2 Omni Negates plus Borean plus whatever non-ninja you have still. So yeah, Silvy plus no spell and traps. I saw people were wondering about what to do when you have Silvy plus no spell and traps. Here's what I would do, provided you have another monster you want to tribute for Deception as well. So this is like Silvy plus 1 monster to tribute off Deception. So next, let's cover the combos starting with Deception or Diabellstar. And let me just say, there's a reason why we only play these cards at 1 copy each in this deck. And that's because we don't want to start with these cards, because these are the starters that are the most vulnerable to getting disrupted. Because you have to tribute a monster or send a card for cost, and then if you get hand trapped, then you just lost a card for no reason. So that's not ideal. But you gotta know what to do if this is the only starter in your hand, which is not the case for this hand. But we're gonna pretend that this is the only starter in our hand, and we're gonna ignore the other 4 cards in your hand. So we're gonna activate Deception. And there's only really one play. We have the Deception, tribute a monster, and hope it resolves, and get our Hallowed Azamina. Next, we're going to use Hallowed Azamina, sending the Deception to summon Murcielago. And this is going to be really weird, but Murcielago, we're going to add. We're not going to add a spell trap. We're going to add the Elzette of the Azamina, and then we're going to special summon Elzette of the Azamina, just because, presuming our hand has no other starters, we don't really have another monster we want to summon, so we're gonna summon Elzette, and then we're going to link off the Elzette and the Murcielago into Moon of the Close Heaven. And then this is important, make sure you use Hallowed Azamina and shuffle back the Elzette, because we didn't use Elzette's effect yet because we didn't use it for a synchro summon, because we were that down bad. But yeah, now we link the Moon into our Fiendsmith Requiem, and now Requiem sack itself to summon out Lacrima, and then Lacrima is going to send an Engraver to grave, and now Engraver is going to shuffle back Moon, and now Engraver plus Lacrima is going to go into Sequence. And Sequence, you're gonna make Fusion Lacrima, shuffling back Lacrima plus Requiem, and then Fusion Lacrima is gonna target our Engraver, engrave, add it to hand, then use Engraver, itch to add Tract, and now we're gonna activate Tract to add and discard Lurie. And Lurie's going to special summon itself. And now Lurie plus Sequence into Sprint, since this is what we do when we don't have full access to our White Forest engine. So Sprint is then going to dump Astellar. Then you're going to use Fiendsmith Tract, the Fusion Summon into Rextremende using Lacrima plus Sprint. And then Rextremende, send the Hallowed Azamina. And then Lacrima, you can shuffle back Lurie if you want, because it's free, it doesn't matter. And then for 12, and then Rextremende is going to send a Requiem to grave. And now that's going to trigger Astellar since we sent the Hal Azamina for the effect of Rextremende. Then we're going to equip both the Requiem and the Sequence to do this nonsense again. And then we can use Astellar to send the Requiem. And we're going to special Silvy. And now Silvy is going to add our Woes of the White Forest. We can actually add Woes with this. So now we're going to synchro into Arciela using Silvy plus Astellar. And now Arciela is going to send Sequence to add our Elzette of the White Forest. And now Elzette can send the Woes that we searched, the special summon itself, and then we can add back the Azamina Elzette, and it's going to reset the Woes. And fun fact, we technically did not normal summon yet because we started with Deception, so that's why I set the Elzette at the start, because we used the Elzette's effect to special summon itself, put it back, and now we searched the Elzette again. So now that we can normal summon the Elzette, and now we can go into Diabell using Arciela plus Elzette. And now we can Diabell. Elzette can add Spindle Spoils, and we can add the Hal Azamina back to our hand for a third. We can add the Hal Azamina to our hand for a third time this turn. And then the Elzette triggers is going to finally get us our Wanted, and now we can do Wanted, or we can do Hallowed Chained Wanted. And unfortunately, we can make Ilia Sylvia. We're gonna add Diabellstar, obviously, and we can add Ilia Sylvia. The only issue is that this is our only level 6 non-tuner again, so if we want to make Baron, we're gonna have to use the Ilia Sylvia. So first, I'm going to link the Elzette and the Rextremende into Elf. And that's going to trigger the Rextremende to add the track back to hand. And now we're going to Silvy, shuffle back the Arciela. So okay, my zones placement could use some work. I probably should have summoned the Elf in the leftmost zone instead of the rightmost zone, but it's fine. We're just missing the protection on Baron. It's okay. We'll probably live. So now Silvy plus Azamina Ilia Sylvia. Go into Baron, and then we can Diabellstar, send the Fiendsmith track that we added to our hand for free off the Rextremende, and then Diabellstar is gonna set our Morian, and then Sprite Elf effect is gonna revive whatever the hell we want. Does not really matter which one we revive. We're just gonna revive it so that we can make IP with our Diabellstar and whatever we revived off Elf. So yeah, and then we'll set. I mean, if you have a cost for Diabellstar, you can draw for off Wanted. In this case, we don't have a good cost for our Diabell, so we're just gonna go end phase and we're just gonna reset the Deception and use the Deception as the cost for Diabell. So yeah, one Deception combo gets you pretty far still. You get IP, Baron, Diabell, Woes, Morian, and you know you reset the Deception for the cost for Diabell. So this is still a lot of interruptions. The only thing is that you got to get past the hurdle again of the initial Deception. You got to pray that your Deception doesn't get negated. But if it doesn't, you can still end on all this. Now we don't have the Ilia Sylvia. This is the only thing we're missing. We're missing one Omni Negate. So oh no, we only have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We only have 6, 7 interruptions instead of 8. What are we ever gonna do? It's fine though. Like, and the fact that you can even like just recycle the Ilia Sylvia back to your X deck on the next turn and then pressure your opponent with more Ilia Sylvias on them. on to follow up. You know, it's good enough. Like, this is definitely good enough. Like, as long as you don't get your deception owned, it's great. And yeah, this is what I came up with the 1-card deception combo. The 1-card deception plus obviously tributing a monster from hand. But yeah. So finally, this is probably the most costly and risky, and honestly probably the worst combo in the entire deck, which is when you start with Diabellstar as your only starter. Because you're going to have to discard a lot of cards for this combo. And obviously if you get hand trapped while doing that, it's not good, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. So yeah, this is going to be Diabellstar, plus you gotta send a card for Diabellstar, then you gotta tribute a monster in hand for Diabellstar for Deception too. So like it's 2 discards basically that you have to do to even start this combo. But yeah, pretend that the rest of this hand is not live, which honestly it's not even really that live to begin with. But yeah, we're gonna use Diabellstar and we're gonna just send a card for Diabellstar and pray we don't get Imperm or Veilered. And then set the Deception. And then we're gonna activate Deception and then tribute another monster in hand. And then pray we don't get Ogred or Ashed or Drolled. And if we avoided all that, then we're Gucci. So now we're gonna use Hallowed Azumina, sending the Deception for Murcielago, which Murcielago is gonna add. It doesn't matter which one you add, I'm gonna be honest, because you're gonna be adding both to your hand over the course of this combo anyways. So like if you want to be safe, you could add a Morian right now. That way, if you somehow get stopped, at least you have the Morian. Whereas like the Wanted doesn't really do anything because you already used Diabellstar, unfortunately. But yeah, now you're gonna go into Moon using these 2. And now add back the Hallowed Azumina. And I'm putting back the Elzette. So like normally you would put back Murcielago, but I hard opened the Elzette, so I'm just gonna put the Elzette back. And so like it's just still exactly the same thing regardless. And now we have to hold this Hallowed Azumina in hand. We can't use it to send the Morian for Ilia Sylvia because we need the spell and trap cards for discards or sends. So we have to go Moon into Requiem and just raw dog the Fiendsmith combo. Requiem, tribute itself, summon out Lacrima, send Engraver, shuffle back Moon, then Engraver plus Lacrima into sequence, and sequence, make Lacrima by shuffling back Lacrima and Requiem. Lacrima will then add Engraver to hand. Then you'll pitch Engraver for Tracked. I heckin' love Engraver. Pitch Tracked, add Lurie. Discard Lurie, special summon Lurie with its own effect. I heckin' love Fiendsmith, bro. So excited for 10 more years of Fiendsmith. So yeah, and then Sprint with Lurie plus Sequence. Just Sprint. We'll send Astellar. Then Tracked. Go into Rextremende with Lacrima and Sprint. Then Rex, you can discard either Hallowed or Morgan, doesn't really matter because you're just gonna add the other one back, but we can discard Hallowed. Then Lacrima will shuffle back Lurie because I mean we can. You don't have to, but yeah, take 12, Rextremende, send the Requiem to grave. So we'll trigger Astellar, special summon itself, and then equip both Requiem and Sequence. Then Stellar, send the Requiem or Sequence, doesn't matter which one, to summon out Silvy. Then Silvy, add your Woes Now we're gonna go Arciela with Stellar plus Silvy. Arciela will send the sequence for your honestly we can add tails if you want, because we're just gonna be adding Elzette anyway, so you can add tails for Elzette, or you can just add the Elzette directly. So I'm just gonna add the Elzette directly. Then Elzette, discard the woes, special summon the Elzette, and add the Asmina Elzette, and then set woes. Next we're gonna special the Asmina, the Elzette, and Asmina Elzette plus Arciela will go into Diabell, and that's gonna trigger Diabell and Arciela. So Diabell will add back the Hallowed Asmina, and then Elzette is going to add our Wanted to hand, because that's the only one we haven't used yet. That's the only one we have left in deck. So add Hallowed, and then Hallowed Chain Wanted. Even though this doesn't really do much because we already used Diabellstar, so like all this is accomplishing is getting a level 6 non-tuner body on field. So add back the Diabellstar that we can't even use, and then summon Iliosilva, sending the Wanted, and now we can Silvy, shuffle back the Arciela, and can go into Baron using Iliosilva plus Silvy, because that's all we have. And here we're just gonna draw off the Wanted, because honestly we're gonna get a free send anyways off when the Rextremende goes to the grave, so we can just freely get a Wanted draw by putting back the Deception. And here's the thing: if you have another, we technically have not normal summoned yet. So if you have somehow drew into a card that you don't mind just normal summoning from hand, for example, if you have like a dupe hand trap or something, you can normal summon it, make Elf with Elzette, Elf revive a level 2, and then make IP. So that way you would have Elf plus IP. But I don't think that's going to be the case, because this is already asking a lot. Because keep in mind, we already sent a card for Diabell, and we already tributed a monster for Deception. So if you somehow still have another crappy monster in your hand that you don't care about, I mean that's like kind of a small miracle, because you already literally got rid of the 2 worst cards in your hand already. So you probably don't have anything that you want to normal summon. For example, our hand is like 3 hand traps, so like we don't want to normal summon any of these. So we're not going to be able to make Elf in this combo, and we're just going to go without using our normal summon for this turn, which feels a little odd, but you know, it's the Diabellstar one card. It's the Diabellstar line. You know, what are you going to do? This is like the worst combo in the deck for a reason. But yeah, assuming we don't have a card we want to normal summon, we're just going to link off the Rextremende and the Elzette into an IP Masquerena. And then the Rextremende is going to add our track to hand, and that's why we felt fine shuffling back to the session, because we have this track that we can just send for the cost of Diabell, and then pass. So this is our end board: Baron, IP plus Diabell plus Woes and Morian. It's still like, this is still like 5-6 interruptions plus whatever hand traps we have in hand. Like, this is honestly fine. It just looks the most awkward and looks the most ugly, because this is like, I mean, Diabellstar, man, this is not the combo starter you want, but it gets the job done if you don't get interrupted at the very least. So like, here's what you would do if this is all you have. And one thing to note is that you can't use the IP very early, because we don't have another body. Like, you're gonna probably have to use Diabell or Woes to summon a monster first, and then after you summon Silvera, then you can use IP Masquerena plus the Silvera to then go into SP. So use the Diabell or the Woes first, and then you can IP, and then you're free to IP into SP. So yeah, and then this is still, if you use your interruptions properly, or like honestly, even if you don't, this is so many interruptions, you're still probably fine. But yeah. So this is what an example White Forest decklist would look like now, with Lacrima, the Crimson Tears, and Fiendsmith's Rextremende. Most of it is standard, you'll just notice that we're no longer playing the Millennium engine in here, because while you still can play the Millennium engine, the biggest advantage of the Millennium engine was that you could get to your Fiendsmith engine and do your combo without a normal summon. That way you could reserve your normal summon for Astellar later on. Now that we have access to Rextremende, we can summon Astellar from the grave without using our normal summon at any time, which means that we no longer need to hold our normal summon for the Astellar, which means that we can now combo with Kashtira the same way we combo with Millennium. It's just that with Kashtira monsters, in order to combo, instead of placing the hand trap with Wedju Temple, you would just normal summon the hand trap instead, which costs your normal summon, but since you no longer need your normal summon for Astellar now, Kashtira is now just as good as the combo piece of a combo starter as Millennium cards are now. Obviously, there are less copies of Kashtira monsters than there are Millennium cards, so if you still want the consistency, you could play more Millennium if you want to. It's up to you. I just like the Kashtira having extra utility besides just being combo pieces and extenders. But yeah, also, if you want, you could... you notice that the Kashtira engine is 5 cards, 1 Fender, 2 Unicorn, 1 Birth, and 1 one Bravestaff. If you want, you could cut these 5 Kashtira cards and just go with and you would be at a 40 card pure White Forest deck. Now, I personally think that going above 40 to play a powerful engine like the Kashtira cards is worth it, in my opinion, so that's why I went to 45 with the Kashtira cards. But if you want to play pure 40, just know that you can play pure by cutting the Kashtira engine here. And yeah, the deck, going over the deck list, it's mostly standard. Just 1 Astellar, 3 Elzette, 1 Azamina Elzette, 3 Silvy, 1 Rusia, 1 Lacrima, the Crimson Tears, 2 Engraver, 1 Fenrir, 2 Unicorn, 1 Diabellstar, 1 Tails, 1 Tract, 1 Hallowed, 1 Bravestaff, 1 Birth, 1 Deception, 1 Wanted, 1 Morian, and 1 Woes. I think that's pretty much standard in basically every single white... Well, the White Forest ratios are pretty much standard in every White Forest build. Same with Deception and Diabellstar, because as I mentioned in the combos, you don't want to start with that Deception and Diabell. You want to access these during your combo. You don't want to start with them because they're very costly and very risky into hand traps. But yeah, that's like the standard engine that I think pretty much every White Forest Fiendsmith deck now runs, and then obviously we have the Kashtira engine on top, which could be a Millennium, or it could just be not there if you want. And then the rest is just hand traps and non-engine. So that non-engine doesn't... It just depends on what you want to run. So like, for example, I have Effect Veiler, Ghost Ogre, Ash, 2 Maxi, because that's all we're allowed, and then like 1 Droll and 1 Fua for the cross out, and then 3 Imperm. Specifically, you should be running Imperm because you need spell and traps to discard for your White Forest. So if anything, at least you have to run at least Imperm and then Called by plus cross out for your stun engine. If, like, for nothing else, just as a last resort, something you can ditch for just being spell traps you can ditch for your White Forest effects. As shown in the combos, that like the combos where you have a spell and trap card to discard are much better than the ones where you don't have an additional spell and trap card to discard. But yeah, of note, speaking of spell and trap cards, okay, there's one thing that people have been I've seen floating around, is that people have been considering playing Typhoon. Now, obviously this is anti-Blue Eyes tech, okay, and Blue Eyes is the most popular deck. So if you hate Blue Eyes, number 1, that's the thing. Number 2, this is technically a spell and trap. Well, it's not technically, this is a spell and trap. So if you run this as non-engine, technically that means you have more spell and traps that you can discard for your White Forest effects. So I don't know, if you have a real hate boner for Blue Eyes, then you can play this, and this has like the additional benefit of just being a spell and trap that you can discard for your White Forest. Up to you. I personally, I'm not going that extreme. I'm not really. I don't think you need to go that far. I think this deck has lots of spell and traps already, but if you want to up the count, you know, technically this works. Like, also the Millennium cards. I'm not running the Millennium engine currently, but if you do run the Millennium engine, keep in mind that every Sang engine and every Golem, and obviously Wedju Temple, that you draw can also be considered as a spell and trap that you can use for your White Force decks. Now, notably, that doesn't work for Rextremende, because Rextremende has to discard from your hand, so the Millenniums do not synergize as Rextremende, but for your White Force effects, the Millennium can. So that's just something to think about. But yeah, that's the main deck. Mostly standard, just hand traps plus standard ratios. The extra deck, there's 0 flex spots in here. There's literally 0 flex spots in this extra deck. Like, with the combos I showed you, you have no flexes. This is all you have room for. So, 1 Lacrima, Ilia Sylvia, Murcielago, 1 Rextremende, 1 Silvera, 1 Arciela, 1 Diabell, 1 Baron, 1 Requiem, 1 IP, 1 Elf, 1 Sprint, 1 SP, 1 Moon, 1 Sequence. At least 14 of these cards are non-negotiable. The only one you could maybe argue is like that you could argue could be something else is IP Masquerade, because this is only an end board piece. It's not part of any combos. But I'm not sure there's really anything better you can run. You could run Appaloosa instead of IP, but that gets to then it becomes harder because there are, as you saw, there are some lines where you just can't make Appaloosa, and your only option was IP. So like IP is more reliable in the sense as an extra deck slot. Also, you could make the argument that instead of just making IP, if you have this 15 extra dogs free, you could just make SP instead of IP, and like you're gonna win 90% of those games anyways, because your boards are gonna end on, instead of having like 8 interruptions, you're gonna have 7 interruptions. Like, oh no, that's not the end of the world, which is true. So if you have something you want to run in the 15 slot besides IP, and you can just you can settle with just making SP in those situations instead, then feel free to cut IP for whatever you want for 15 slot. I just think that IP is probably the best card and the card that comes up the most in the 15 slot. But yeah, besides IP, obviously everything else is necessary. You saw, you literally went through every single one of these other cards in the combo lines. So yeah, and that's White Forest in a nutshell. If you have any questions, let me know, and I hope you found this video at the very least helpful, because man, I ended up spending a lot more time on this video than I thought I would have. There goes my weekend. Thanks for watching.